things got off really, really rocky for Marcus Freeman year one at Notre Dame. And yeah, most of us expected them to lose to Ohio State. They did keep that game a little bit closer than what most people expected it to be. Most people thought that it was going to be a bloodbath. We thought that it was going to be 47-10, but Notre Dame hung around, to their credit. And then, after that, things got really, really scary for Notre Dame up there, man. They got upset by Marshall. It was some really dark times, and I was listening to a recent interview that Marcus Freeman did with the Pivot podcast with Fred Taylor, Shannon Crowder, and Ryan Clark, and he said that after they lost that game to Marshall, things were a little bit hard, but he didn't lose the locker room. And Notre Dame bounced back in a major way. They went 6-1 to end the season. They had a big upset win over Clemson. Also, Syracuse the week before that. They beat South Carolina in the Taxler Bowl. And they finished the season with a 9-4 record. So we go into year 2 of the Marcus Freeman era at Notre Dame. What can we expect out of the Fighting Irish this season? Is this a team that some people are overlooking that could end up being a dark horse college football playoff contender? I think they have the 10th or the 11th best odds to win the national championship this year. You add Sam Howell in the transfer portal, who is going to be the most talented quarterback that Notre Dame has had in recent memory. And you look at how good their offensive line is. They have probably the best offensive line in all of college football, either them or Michigan. And you look at the fact that you have Joe Ard, Blake Fisher, which is probably the most talented offensive tackle duo in the nation. And then you have a wide receiver room that, although there's a good amount of unproven talent, they do have a lot of talent. And a wide receiver that I really like this year to have a breakout season is Jaden Thomas. He was highly touted when he was coming out of high school. He has great athleticism and great size. I think he reminds me a lot of Chase Claypool in a sense. And then you have a lot of talent at the running back position. Your leading rusher last year was averaging over 5.9 yards per carry. He had 11 touchdowns, and he's running behind the best offensive line in college football this year. He should be even better this season. You're really good on the defensive side of the football. Your defensive line has a lot of talent, a lot of depth, but this secondary can be really, really fantastic for Notre Dame this year. Cornerback Cam Hart, Benjamin Morrison, who had 6 interceptions last year, 5 pass breakups. He's one of the best cornerbacks in college football this year. You got a lot of good depth at that position. Your safety position is also talented, although if you have one of your starting safeties that goes down to an injury, you're probably going to have some concerns when it comes to depth after those guys. But this is one of the most talented teams that Notre Dame has put on the field in recent memory. And I know we seem to say this about Notre Dame every single season. Hell, I said it last year. I thought that Tyler Buchner was going to be the dude, but obviously he wasn't. But you have a proven commodity at quarterback in Sam Hartman. This was somebody who was the best quarterback in the ACC during his last couple of seasons, being the starting quarterback for the Demon Deacons. And you look at the fact that now you're going to give him one of the best offensive lines in college football and a better group of receivers to throw the football to. I think that Marcus Freeman has learned from his earlier mistakes that he made the first couple of games throughout last year's season. He even said that on the pivot, there were some things that he had to change, that he had to adapt. But one positive thing about that is that he never lost the locker room. You lose to a school like Marshall and you're like the Notre Dames of the world, you don't bounce back from that. You saw what happened to Texas A&M when they lost to Appalachian State. Their season just fell off the rails, but that didn't happen to Marcus Freeman. And this dude is a fantastic recruiter, and this dude is a fantastic motivator of all of the players that play under him. These players for Notre Dame, they love Marcus Freeman. They go to war for Marcus Freeman. When Marcus Freeman was named the full-time head coach of Notre Dame football after Brian Kelly departed for LSU, this locker room got extremely happy. They love Marcus Freeman, and they play hard for this dude. And you look at how much talent they have on this Notre Dame team, I think he's going to be able to maximize it. And when you look at their schedule, it is a really difficult schedule. So if Notre Dame ends up being in the college football playoff conversation, I don't want to hear none of that nonsense that y'all stay talking about Notre Dame. Oh, they don't play nobody, JT. Oh, they're unproven. They got a cupcake schedule. Like, stop it. Like, Notre Dame has one of the toughest schedules in college football this year. Like, yeah, their first 2 games should be cakewalks. You're playing Navy. You got to play Tennessee State. But after that, you're going on the road against NC State. That's no pushover. That's a team that's a lot better than what a lot of people give them credit for. Then you got to play a Central Michigan. Yeah, they're not good, but okay, you should go into that game against Ohio State 3-0. And then Ohio State, that's going to be a really big challenge for Notre Dame this year, because I think that Notre Dame is going to end up losing that game, because I think that Ohio State is the second most talented team in college football, and I think that they have the best chance of being able to stop Georgia from three-peating. So you might not be able to win that game, but you do have a chance to win it because you do have Sam Hartman. I think a large reason why you struggled against Ohio State last year was due to the fact that you didn't have great quarterback play. And anytime you have a guy of Sam Hartman's caliber, you're always going to have a chance to win these big games against schools such as Ohio State. And I don't think Notre Dame has ever had a quarterback that's been as talented as Sam Hartman in recent memory. Under Brian Kelly, they were going to the national championship with Deshaun Goldson, I believe his name was, and then you had Ian Book in the college football semifinals. Like, those guys were decent. Ian Book was better than Deshaun Goldson or Everett Goldson. I don't remember what his name was. I think it was Deshaun Goldson or Everett Goldson, but whatever. Sam Hartman is a way better quarterback than what you've had going into big games of the magnitude that you're going to be going into this season against Ohio State. Then you got to go on the road and face Duke. Yeah, you're more talented than Duke on paper, but like we saw last year, Duke is no team that you should just be overlooking anymore. Like, Duke is no longer just a basketball school. This is a football and basketball school now, which is crazy to say, but me being a Miami Hurricane fan, I just got to go ahead and give credit to Duke. I got to stop making the jokes about them just being a basketball school. They are now a football school, and you shouldn't take them lightly. And then you got to play Louisville. Like, yeah, you got a better roster than Louisville on paper, but you can't sleep on Jeff Brom. Do you know what they used to call Jeff Brom during his time at Purdue? This dude's nickname was the Upset Master. There's a reason why you get a nickname for that, because he always had Purdue ready to play in the big games against the best teams. And then you got to play USC with Caleb Williams, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, who could very well end up winning that thing again this year. And then coming off your bye, you got to play Clemson, which is your last biggest test of the season. And then you got Wake Forest, Stanford on the road. So I think my ceiling for Notre Dame this year has to be 10 wins. Maybe potentially more, but I do think that they're going to have 2 losses during this stretch. It's either going to be to Ohio State or Clemson, or it's either going to be to Ohio State or USC, or Ohio State or Louisville. I think they're going to end up losing a game to at least one of those other teams not named Ohio State. But my floor for Notre Dame is probably going to be 8 wins. So I have to give you a record prediction for Notre Dame this year. I'd probably say they end up winning 9 games this year. I don't really know exactly where those losses are going to come from, but I definitely do have that Ohio State game locked in as a L. Now, you very well could win that game. I don't feel the same way about Notre Dame going into the Ohio State game like I did last year. Like, I felt like Notre Dame didn't have a chance at all. I know it's college football. I know that's an ignorant statement to say that no team has a chance, because you know the mantra every single Saturday, anything is capable of happening. But I feel like you have a better chance against Notre Dame this season with Sam Hartman at quarterback than what you did last year having Tyler Buckner out there and Drew Pine. So you could end up upsetting them, which I think the chances are pretty small. But then you got some tough games against Duke, Louisville on the road. You got to play Clemson on the road. You got USC at home, which is a winnable game. But I do think that they end up having a couple of L's here and there. So I have them at between 9 and 10 wins. I'll probably go 9, but I very well could see them winning 10 games. But I do think that this is a team that definitely could be in the conversation to make a New Year's Six bowl game. And maybe they could end up going undefeated and making it to the college football playoffs, that most definitely is possible. We know that they are going to be really good defensively. USC doesn't play great defense, and plus their secondary matches up very well against Clemson's wide receiving core. Clemson's wide receivers aren't really all that great. Like, yeah, they have some highly talented guys that they've gotten out of high school, but you still don't know how good the offensive line is going to be. The offensive line has been a struggle for them. They got Garrett Riley as their OC, but we still don't know how much talent they're going to have to work with at the receiver position. They haven't really done a great job developing that side of the football, at least when it comes to the skill position at receiver, and their offensive line still is a little shaky, so you definitely could end up beating them, even though it's going to be a tough, hostile environment playing them on the road. But you got to remember that Sam Hartman has a lot of experience. This isn't a first-year starter at QB. This is somebody who's played on the road in hostile environments, so you're not going into that game with inexperience really being a problem. Even though you're playing them at home, you're going to have a quarterback that's going to be able to manage that tough crowd noise. So I think Notre Dame went somewhere between 9 or 10 games, but you guys let me know how good you guys think Notre Dame football is going to be in 2023.